Okay, let's imagine that I am person one and this is my responsibility. I'm going to find those files, select them, and drag them all into Bamboo Studio onto a nice fresh plate. And because I dragged multiple files, it's going to ask, do you want to combine all these objects into one object? No, I do not. I want to be able to move them around separately on the plate. And notice how they all come in piled on top of each other. If I click this Arrange button, Bamboo will give them all a place to call their own. But it puts all the little guys way over here on a separate plate. They don't need that much room. So hold down Command or Control on a PC and select them all and bring them back onto the first plate, and then find this little X button to delete that second plate. We don't need it. Great, now right-click on the bushing 250 and choose Clone, and clone it 5 times for a total of 6 of those bushings. And you know what? The number of times where I'm missing one is too many for my comfort, so I'm going to add 2 more. It's not going to add but a minute to the print time. The only other thing that I need to clone is the 0625, the 1/16 inch bushing, and I just need 2 of those. But again, I'm going to clone it a couple extra times because these parts take almost nothing to make, and I often drop one on the floor. Now the collar clamps. We've got a bit of a dilemma here because we have 2 arcs, the through holes for our screws and the arc for the collar clamp. And one of those is going to have to be facing down, where gravity is going to be more of our enemy. I'm going to make the arc that's going to mate with the pendulum face down. It's bigger and it just sort of has to smush into the wood of the pendulum. The through holes for the 440 screws feel fussier to me, and so I do not want those to have 1/2 of them fighting gravity. What do I mean by fighting gravity? Well, click Slice Plate, and then come to this vertical slider and pull down to see the layers of your print 1 layer at a time. When you get to the bottom, pull back up and watch this arc forming. Do you see how it has to reach further and further out into space with each additional layer? Those moments are less stable and are often blobbier, hairier, gnarlier bits of the 3D print. That's what I wanted to avoid in the tiny little through holes that have to accept the threads of the 440 screws. Now let's look over here. I was working on a project with more than the standard wall loops, and so let's bring that back down to 2 wall loops, and then click Slice Plate to regenerate. Notice how this allows some of this interior cavity in these collar clamps to be just air, nothing at all. This will speed up your print process, especially on this bigger part, the base plate. Okay, that's the prep. Let's click Export Plate to get that 3MF file onto the micro SD card and over to the printer. And notice how we can already tell that we've got about 1 hour and 50 minutes of printing to get this plate done. So hit go get a snack, and when you're back, the print should be done. And if you come back right as it finishes, the print will be hot and still stuck to the bed. In that case, your easiest option is to lift off the magnetic plate of the bed, because when you do, it will bend a little bit, and as it bends, your parts will break free. Then grab the handy scraper and remove any last parts, and remove this calibration strip at the front of the plate, any little bits of rubbish. Be careful not to touch this plate with greasy fingers. It makes the next print that comes along fail to adhere. And as you go to put it back in the printer, know that that magnet at the base loves to suck it down suddenly. So slide the back edge in, leaving space, and only approach the bed when you're ready for it to drop down suddenly. And check on either side just to make sure that you can see a tiny little bit of the plastic trim on either side. If this plate lands crooked, it's not going to work for the next person who tries to start up a 3D print.